We're live. Welcome along, folks. Welcome along. Wisdom on tap. Here we are. We've just been chatting away off camera, haven't we? Got my good friend, Dean McMenamin. Is that how I say it?
That's the one, mate, yeah.
You never know, do you? You never know.
You said it well.
Might be McMenamin, McMenamin. Does it matter?
No, all sound similar, mate.
It all sounds similar. So, Dino, you're on. I just give you some introduction. You were in the army, weren't you? Yeah. Would we call you an army veteran?
That's the one. Veteran.
How long were you in there for?
11 years.
11 years, that's a good chunk. So let me keep introducing you. You've got a brilliant online, what would you call it yourself?
I'm a coach.
Yeah, health, fitness, what?
Yeah, men's health, fitness, transformation coach. I don't really class myself as like an online coach. I'm a coach. I work with people. I help people change for the better. And I deliver that service remotely. But before that, there was many years training people in person, learning the challenges and the struggles that people have.
I think I remember when I first met you.
Paul Mort's
stuff. I'm pretty sure you were training people in your garage.
Was it?
Hello. Mark smashing the place up.
Yeah, I was running boot camps at that point as well. You know, the kind of typical outdoor boot camp. And then I was training people out of a small garage. But it wasn't just in the garage.
It's all going on in here. Look at it. Mark's having a meltdown of you on the screen. Somebody's come in. Go on, Mark. What's going on off the camera? Who's trying to get in?
Yeah, I'll cut that out. Don't worry.
Who's trying to get in?
Some electricians.
Some electricians.
That's fine. Gives the conversation a bit more character, doesn't it?
Yeah, I reckon. I think. So what were you saying? You were.
I was running boot camps.
That was it.
Training some people like from the small garage gym, but with a large area outside the garage. So we used the big grass hill, which was a good tool.
Yeah, I bet the grass hill. A bit of Jason Ferrugia.
Yeah,
you're one of my favourite coaches, I think. That's why you're on here.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
Obviously, I like you as a mate. We've caught up loads, haven't we? It's mad, really. I don't think we met in. Did we meet in person with Paul?
We met. It's his 3-day workshop, Accelerate, something like that. He called it, didn't he?
We did the
3-day.
The Malmaison.
Yeah, the Malmaison in South Shields, Newcastle.
South Shields has not got a Malmaison, D.
It doesn't.
I don't think so. No offense to South Shields people. I don't think they've got a Malmaison, whatever it's called. I knew I met you there. I knew it wasn't just online. We were in there with people like Gregory Bradley.
That's right. He owns Black Box.
Yeah, at the time he was talking about like doing these big numbers. I remember like being some like little piece, and I was like, I remember him saying, we had to get up and say what we're going to do the next quarter in business.
At this stage, I'd just left the military. On something like $2,000 a month or 2,400 quid a month, starting up a boot camp, doing like 800 quid a month, and he's talking about. Was it like $250,000?
It was
something crazy like that.
I imagine that would be. I'm like, whoa, that would be changed to him now, the size of Black Box. But I remember it's a funny story because he got up and he said, "I'm going to do this much next quarter," and I was like, I had to get up next. So I just doubled my number. I cannot sit there and say that little number. But I'll tell you what, I hit it.
I don't even think I shared mine.
But I hit it. There's a lesson there, isn't there, really?
I remember you doing really well from the get-go off that because you'd sent some emails. And when we were in the workshop, you were like, I've got people replying just now. We're getting some sign-ups as we're in the workshop. I'm like, he's at it.
I was that big on that. I've always been big on action, really. So I'm going to do this right now. But I loved that. That was a massive turning point in my life, those 3 days.
Yeah.
Probably don't give it as much credit as it's due because I went to something he did maybe 18 months later, which was a bit more warrior-esque on the beach, all that. In fact, Mark was probably recording it.
That was off the back of, he did the warrior thing with Garrett J. White.
Yeah, so he sort of changed it up.
Warrior.
But I loved the Accelerate 3 days. We did CrossFit in that, didn't we? Some CrossFit workouts.
Yeah. In fact, I think one of the first CrossFit workouts that we did, and I was CrossFitting at the time, so...
Wasn't it like the 50 pull-ups? What's that called? A mile run? Didn't we do all that?
I don't remember a lot of the names for the benchmark workouts, but we did that one where is it 50 press-ups? Or 50 pull-ups, 100 press-ups?
Yeah, and 300 squats.
300 squats, a mile run either side.
Yeah.
We did that. But I remember one of the group workouts, I think it was me, you and Dan Moore.
Dan Moore, yeah.
I ended up running to the toilet, spewing up, and I left you and Dan doing all the work. I'm like,
brilliant. You look at that group though.
Everyone's doing so
Everyone's
well.
done all right, haven't they?
Remember the boy Chris, the photographer?
Yeah, Chris Greenback.
I think he's doing great as well.
Yeah, and you had Dan Moore doing really well. Myself and you doing well. Gregory Bradley, you know.
He's smashing it.
Yeah, he's got multi-million pound business now.
Oh, Andrew Lahart.
Andrew Lahart, I don't know what Andrew's doing, but he was doing really well when he left, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Over in...
I've spoken with Andrew a couple of times.
Doing good?
I think, he's went strength to strength. He's done really well.
He's got like facilities and stuff. We all went different angles though.
Bulletproof Dad.
Bulletproof
that's
Dad.
Andrew's thing, isn't it? His program.
Yeah. Mate, it was brilliant. I loved it. And I think it was my first time being around people in business as well. Do you know what I mean? I've never been around other people in business where you're like, all right, yeah, we're talking about business and numbers.
That was my first exposure.
Yeah.
So I was the guy in that room making the less money.
Yeah, not now.
I'm just literally getting started. So I think I was quite conscious about sharing my goals when we were setting them, especially with
Well, I
Gregory.
was about the same as you, really. So I was the same. I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? You know, like I said, I remember just doubling that number pretty much because I thought I can't say that after he's just said that. Bit of ego, but actually
that's a good
stretching
point.
the challenge.
I know some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, and I think that's a really good point in reference to it's important to be around people where you're not the best in the room.
Yeah.
Whether it's in health, fitness, business, because otherwise your standards are not pushed to elevate, are they? And if you're not elevating your standards in the areas that you want to see grow, you're going to stagnate.
Do you think it's important to be around people that you can help?
Yes.
People that are probably on your level.
Well, naturally, we want...
And then people who can help you.
Naturally, I think we all feel like we're bringing some value to the world if we're able to contribute and help. Yeah, for sure. So we need that combination.
I think the communities that are cool. We try and do that in our stuff. It's like, as you progress through the coaching, you're not there to coach other people, but you certainly can be there to, his kind of not leading by example, I suppose, but that way of like, here's what I'm doing. Just, here's where I'm at. I'm going through these harder steps in the program. I'm going through this. People look at that and like, whoa, there's someone kind of blazing the trail, so to speak. But then you need people on your level, but also so it's nice to look back and help up the people coming through, isn't it? Yeah. I think, like you said, you don't want to always be the strongest in every room. Well, I suppose, hey, it doesn't matter if you are or you aren't, but we find it beneficial, I think, to be around people. That's the exact story, isn't it? Where you go, oh God.
And you need to be open to being helped as well to improve. Like so many people stay stuck. Obviously, with me and being a coach for men are so stubborn. Yeah. We can get into all this, can't we? We can get into this. I think, do you know what, just touching what you said, I think the importance about being around people who are probably doing a bit more, maybe, is it expands your ideas of what's possible for yourself. Yep. I think that's the big thing. You got somebody there who was, in that symbol, was a business thing, was talking about an amount of money where you're like, do people make that a quarter? Do you know what I mean? Like, wow. And they're talking about it in such a normalised fashion that you need to see firsthand what's possible. Yeah. In regards to fitness, when I first started working in the military gym as a military trainer, one of the guys who's a really good friend of mine, haven't seen in a long time though, just because I left, but keep in touch now and again. Craig, getting to work alongside him for 2 years opened my eyes to like how some people really treat their health and their body. I remember the first time seeing Craig take his shirt off and I'm like, he's on the juice, fuck's sake, look at him. But like, no, I've never seen anyone so dedicated to training and the food they eat. And it made me feel almost a bit embarrassed because I was right into the fitness, but he was like next level. He was into the fitness. When you see someone who, they're tired, they've been putting a lot of work in all week and they can usually let themselves slip, but instead he's like, right, I need to get this workout done. He was competitive in CrossFit. Right. So, and he was training on his own most of the time. He wasn't training with like a CrossFit gym. So he was rattling CrossFit on his own. He went to, he made some good places in some of the UK competitions. I know he got to regionals in Europe as well. That's a really,
he's not
really,
messing about,
really
is
good
he?
level. Yeah, and you see how somebody lives. That forces you to take a look at what you're doing and some of the beliefs you've had around what's required to achieve goals.
Again, it's that big fish. You can be a big fish in a little pond, can't you? Sometimes. And I think that's nice to feel like that. Again, I think you need to, like you say, but then all of a sudden, sometimes moving into a bigger pond, you're like, look what these people are doing. It's a bit like the old 4-minute mile, innit, you know. People break it and then everyone breaks it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you go, oh shit, it's possible. I wonder how many things in life we put limits on in our own life. That's got to be a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Massive. You talked about the army. If you don't mind me saying, you've lost some hearing, haven't you? Have you lost hearing?
It's all right. You probably noticed when we were in the cafe earlier.
Yeah.
Repeat yourself
But I've
a
noticed
couple of times.
we've been round. You said you'll have to speak up a bit in that ear.
Yeah.
You lost hearing. Was that in the army? Is that why you were?
It was in the army. Yeah. So I can hear all right, but right now there's a bit of tinnitus.
Really?
And there's certain frequencies that I just cannot hear. It's really common. Obviously, it's like nature of the job. Too many loud bangs near the head. So it takes its toll. But there was a few prominent circumstances where, that's definitely had a big impact. Do you know what I mean?
Did it get blown up in a tank?
No.
You didn't get blown up in a tank.
No, I was in close. So,
I mean, I'm just being ignorant here.
we were in massive armoured.
So is that a tank?
No, it's not a tank. It's an armoured personnel carrier. At the time, when we were in Afghanistan, the Masters, like those were known to be safest houses, and they were. Me and my crew, we drove over an IED. It was a phenomenal explosion.
Hang on, you're going to have to give me a glossary of terms. An IED. IED.
Improvised explosive device, yeah.
Improvised.
So those are the bombs they hide in the ground.
So you drove over one of them?
Yeah, we drove
I'm just
over.
trying to keep up here. Sorry, Dean. And then you got blown up in a Mastiff.
Yeah, that sounds quite horrific, but that was common occurrence for us.
Really?
Yeah, we became highly skilled at getting the vehicles not back on the road, but like towed up and out of any situation because it was happening so often. But the Masters were great. They protected us well. But the one ID that me and my team drove over, that happened so quick. So just like it felt like the Mastiff just hit the deck. One of the wheels, and the wheels are huge. I can't remember the weight of the wheels, but this one ended up about 50 metres away. The explosion was that.
How big would a wheel be compared to this table?
Easy, like
What, as wide as the table?
close.
And
It took a few people to change wheels. Yeah,
Bloody hell.
but it was really close.
So you're trundling along,
It's a
you hit it.
heavy big wheel. So this was at least 50 metres away, and everyone was fine. So it happened quite a lot.
Really?
Yeah, and we were quite efficient at getting the crew in and getting the vehicles hitched up and towed out. And
Didn't you also, I'm sorry, but
so that wasn't the hearing, sorry. So there was an occasion where we get into contact with the Taliban, and this was meant to be just a simple hearts and minds patrol. So we were just going down into a village called Yapmchai, which was south of Musakala.
I don't think you're allowed to bang on my table, Dino. Is he allowed to bang on my table? Must go, no.
Sorry, I'll stop banging
I
on
like
the
it though, because
table,
you're like me. You're like, I need to make some hand movements here. There's a thingy and is this
I
big?
think it's natural communication. We do that.
It is,
So
PM, piano. But hearts and minds, which I presume you'll carry on from there.
there was a simple patrol. We were dropping some boys off who were going to patrol through a village doing a hearts
I'm
and
not
minds
laughing
patrol.
at that. I'm laughing at the fact that you're trying really hard not to tap the table.
I'm now
I can see you like,
conscious
yep.
of keeping my hand still. Like,
He doesn't move from the neck down anymore. He's just like, anyway,
so
good story this. I'll keep interrupting you.
the situation was basically we work with the Afghan National Police, the Afghan Army and stuff, and they've got leaks. A lot of them were Taliban and crooked. So there was some heads up, and the Taliban were basically waiting on us. So luckily we didn't get to a point where we dropped the guys off out of the vehicle. So that would have been quite disastrous. We were out in the open when we started getting hit with RPGs, mortar bombs, machine gun fire.
Oh, yeah.
So that was like unexpected for that. for that patrol or that operation. So to cut the long story short, big exchange of fire for a long time, getting hit with RPGs. And I was a javelin gunner, which is an anti-tank missile. So I had to take that outside the vehicle to use it. And when I come outside, because it's quite bulky, I had to be quite exposed from the vehicle to use it. And as I was locking onto a target, there was a big explosion very close to me. I don't know if it hit the ground or if it hit the vehicle, but all I do know is in my hearing, it was just like really, really loud. That was like that for 24 hours. So obviously I shit myself and rolled under the vehicle at that point, try and get my bearings, and then eventually back out onto the Javelin command launch unit, fire the missile down the range and took the bunker out.
So is that how it ends, a conflict like that?
That's
I mean,
not
I just find it hard to
no.
believe that it goes on, like, and you're like rolling under a tank, and then you're rolling out, and you've got to fire this javelin, you can't hear, and then it's like, how does it all stop? Like, what happens?
So no, the contact was still very much ongoing. I think that was a prominent point where we got no more RPG fire after that. So we're assuming we got the right spot. We managed to pull out, but there was a later operation where we had to go back down, and again there's another big fight. But that was common occurrence as well during my tour. There was every other day we were fighting
In Afghanistan?
Yeah. So there was.
Go on.
We had prominent points where there was loud explosions that definitely impacted the hearing, and then there was probably just an accumulation over time. There was an exercise we did in Kenya, not so long after we did Afghanistan, and I feel like my hearing took a battering on that. That's not an operation. That's just an exercise where we're doing training. We used Kenya to acclimatise because of the heat for operations like Afghanistan. For some reason, I felt my hearing took a right battering on that one. So it was soon after that I failed the hearing test, which is just a routine annual thing. And I don't think I realised the significance of it at the time. I failed the hearing test, went back to platoon officers, and I told my boss, and my boss was like, "Oh shit." I'm like, "What do you mean shit?" And he's like, "That's not good." I'm like, "Okay." He said, "Well, let's get you back in for another test just to make sure." Failed the next hearing test, the exact same thing, and then that was pretty much career over. Because you're medically downgraded, which was a kick in the teeth because I was quite young and promoting quickly. So I was only corporal at the time. But because you're pretty much useless, I was in the infantry. You saw how my hearing was affected in the cafe.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be in a war zone with you.
Exactly. Because a lot of times, once we are in enemy contact, we're communicating by shouting and passing messages. There's no way I'm going to hear properly in that type of situation. It's in a crowded place, like a cafe or a pub, that I'll struggle to hear, and I need to come in close to hear conversation. When there's lots of
it going on,
there's lots of machine gun fire and explosions. That's going to be very difficult. So, on a personal, emotional level, sucked, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't want to over talk about the army, I suppose, because, well, maybe we will. But I suppose I'm interested, personally, from a completely selfish point of view, when you look back on the army, because a lot of people look back sometimes after things like Afghanistan and stuff, don't they? You can hear it and they're like, probably shouldn't have been there. Probably, you hear it, don't you? So I suppose I'm always interested because I don't know if that's a bit dismissive when people say that, but they've been there. I don't know. How can I comment on a world I've not been part of? I'm not going to. How do you feel when you look back out of interest at stuff like that?
I feel quite similar to a lot of the guys now that we know more. We probably, certainly Iraq, we know there was no weapons of mass destruction. We probably shouldn't have been there. Afghanistan, maybe a similar situation. Don't get me wrong. Part of it, like, we were fighting bad guys there. Yeah. So part of me is like, feel quite good about that. It's quite justified. The Taliban are horrible fucking people. And
you had to deal with them, obviously.
Yeah.
Daily.
Yeah. But is it our business?
It's a big philosophical question, isn't it?
I don't think I'm the guy to answer that, but my feelings have definitely changed on the matter.
You got a boy, haven't you?
Yeah.
Would you say get in the army?
I've asked him before. I don't think military's for him.
Is it for a certain kind of individual, do you think?
I think so, yeah. And listen, we've all got our natures, but at the same time, who wants to send their son to fight for this government? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I would be keen to encourage that. There's certain things about, if we separate the military and our government and establishment, there's great things about joining the military, what it does for your character.
Yeah.
And I'm forever thankful for a lot of the character traits and the skills that I gained from the military that have been, direct carryover.
When I hear you talk about the military, because we've had conversations about it, haven't we? Just
I loved it.
You loved it, yeah. I can see genuinely.
It was transformational for me. I would still be in the military today. I'd be close to retirement, not far off it. Some of the guys that were kind of my peer group, they're close to that now.
It must be tough, though. You must have lost friends, and did you?
A few.
Do you want me asking?
I didn't lose any really close mates, but there was some few guys who I did consider friends. Maybe they were just in a different company, same regiment, different company, but you were always closer with the guys that you were in the same platoon as, the same company. I didn't lose anyone who was extremely close, but there was two guys from our battalion that I considered mates, and it's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that must be difficult to process, because of all the good things. We're talking about the good things it gave you, but it must have left you coming out. Surely, we've spoke about this, and you're always quite matter of fact about it. You're like, well, these things happen, and you seem to have processed it. But some people must come out and be all over the shop. Surely,
I think a lot of people struggle. I've been quite lucky in the sense that I had my struggles with stress and identity shift. That was a big struggle for me, and some. I wouldn't say as deep as depression, maybe levels of it or periods of it, but I've never had any of the severe PTSD issues that a lot of the guys have struggled with. And I think it can be quite bad for some people. It can really turn their lives upside down.
Yeah, PTSD is a horrific thing.
I've been quite lucky from that perspective.
When would you say it's just luck at a... I wonder what that is mentally, where some people can be exposed to the same things, even the same situations, and come out with huge
differences in impact.
Yeah, and some people can roll out. I wonder if we'll ever understand fully why that happens. It must be something to do with, God, where you're at mentally when you're in there, surely. Yeah. I don't know.
I think that the biggest thing for me was losing the tribe, losing the identity. Because I joined, like most of us, I joined at 16, just all a boy. And it shapes who you are and what you believe about yourself. So coming out and then not even going into a job, just getting into business, I was so unprepared for that. Yeah. So fucking unprepared.
Do you think, I don't know, did it give you that sense of uniform on, this is who I am, I'm in the army, full identity, was it infantry?
Yeah.
Whatever. This is me. And then you're like, no, you can't do it anymore, you can't hear.
Yeah.
It must be it's almost like literally taking the uniform off, isn't it? And going, I don't have that anymore. Because I think identities are like clothes.
There's actually a huge, and I know there's studies being done on these kind of things, but there's a big, significant positive impact in what it does for your mental game by putting a uniform on.
Yeah, huge.
So whether that's a nurse, a doctor, fire service, army, police, when you're out of uniform, there's a shift in your mentality, not necessarily your identity, but your standards. When you put that uniform on, it's like, right, this is who I am. It's like, Bruce Wayne in the Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you lose that.
Yeah.
Which is tough. It's really, really rough.
I suppose especially if you were going, here's where I'm going. How many people in life are we going, here's where I'm going?
Yeah.
This is where I'm going. And then life goes, no, you're not.
Life says no.
That little life's here, and you go, whoa, I'm not going there. And it's out of my control.
Yeah.
That is difficult.
That was one of the difficult parts because I didn't see any other life. Do you know what I mean? Well, I think I was taken aback by how much I started to love the military from basic training from an early age. Even though I wasn't necessarily unfit. I think the cardio element of it and being able to run because I was such a skinny light guy So I had that in my game, but I was so weak. I was weak as piss when I joined it. The army obviously helped my fitness game in a lot of different ways. But once I started to see the fitness picking up, the physical ability picking up, the skills that I was developing, that did a lot for my confidence quite early on. And then from basic training, there's a lot of people who start, and it's not necessarily special forces, it's just standard infantry training, but there's a lot of people who start, but even with this, there's such a basic level of military training. The end platoon picture, everyone who passes out, is fucking tiny.
Why is that,
You know what I
then?
mean?
I'm interested in that. Why is it we start with this many, we get to that, obviously they weed people out. But if you had to look at, I'm sure there's people who don't make it through incident or accident or just bad luck. I don't know. I'm sure maybe people get injured. I don't know. But what do you need, do you think, at your experience, to be able to succeed in that basic training? Why don't people make it? Because it's probably quite similar to life sometimes, surely.
Yeah.
You coach, you know the people who you go, wow, they kind of make it and they don't. Your coaching's incredible. I know that because I was working with you at the time you were building it out. It's very structured. It's got all the great, wonderful things that coaching should have. You work on it hard. So you're giving people the best opportunity at completing, aren't you? It's not that they're coming out the gate and you're going, yeah, do something impossible. So I suppose the same with the army. Why don't people make it?
Well, I can only speak from my personal experience.
Yeah, of course.
But for me, I had a fear of failing. Do you know what I mean? So there was some, at all stages of your military career, even when you make it in, you're gonna have lots of challenges. You're put on courses. There's lots of pass or fail scenarios throughout your entire career. And one of the things, I've got a personal fear of humiliation. I know that drives me. Everyone's driven slightly differently. I didn't want to go back home and have to say to my parents and my mates that wasn't cut out, didn't fucking make it. And there was a few occasions where I'm like, fuck this shit. Do you know what I mean? But those were just moments. Those were moments. And that was stronger for me than the drive to call it a day and pack my bags.
Yeah, and you must have enjoyed it as well, a sense of enjoyment in what you were doing.
Definitely.
It comes across when you talk about it. You look back at it, not
Definitely.
through like this perfect past, but you certainly look back and go, yeah, I love that.
Definitely thrives off it. It helped me grow as a person, confidence levels.
How does it grow
challenge, the adventure?
How does it grow your confidence levels, the army? I wonder how do they go about that?
Well, we spoke about, there's a lot of ways, but we spoke earlier about the importance of being around different people who push you to raise your standards just by exposure to them and seeing what they're doing. In the military, especially the infantry, you're surrounded by winners. And there's a message that every military personnel knows. Some people balk at the sound of it, some people thrive off it, and it's called, it pays to be a winner. Doesn't matter which branch of the military and the army you're in, there's leaders, platoon commanders, OCs, COs, sergeant majors, regimental sergeant majors, all repeating those words on your company PT sessions, your battalion PT sessions. When there's competitiveness between platoons, between companies, like there's always someone to remind you during the hardship, it pays to be a winner, right? And so that's the environment that you're in. So you can't not improve in fitness. You can't not improve in skills, military skills, using weapons, military tactics, and become like a stronger part of your unit, a stronger individual. It's an environment that's just
built
set up for you to succeed.
Moving, isn't it?
Yep.
And they give you huge amounts of training, by the sounds of it.
It's quite amazing what it does for you as an
individual. And if you like
individual.
learning and you like improving, you must eat that up. Do you think it pays to be a winner in society these days?
I think it does.
Yeah, but do you think we have that? Do you think maybe you said a lot of people would, was it bulk? Edit? Like you said, a lot of people would hear it pays to be a winner and be like, oh.
Yeah, some people.
Do you think a huge chunk of society now feel like that about, how often do people not want to step outside and look too good, if that makes sense? How many people are shy away from winning? How many people are thinking, no, it should always, there's no winners, there's no losers. You know, they bring that in sometimes to school, don't they? No winners or losers, just taking part that counts.
Yeah.
We don't have winners here.
Good. That's not good.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's an argument that removes self-esteem.
Yeah.
And it teaches if you can't, but because life doesn't say there's no losers. There's losers, isn't there? We lose.
It's good to get beat.
I love that. Not literally.
Listen, sometimes literally when you get beat. Listen,
you are right. It's good to lose.
I grew up in a social housing scheme. I've had my fucking balls kicked more than a few times. I think that's good for your character. How do you learn how not to be and what you can't get away with?
Yeah, you asking me that question?
Yeah, well, you can respond to that if you like, mate.
Sounds like I've got to. No, I honestly, I think competition is good for people.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to learn to lose. And there has to be losers to be winners, and there has to be winners to be losers. If there's, you know, how do you go? You say you go for a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone gets a job, do they? They don't go, oh, you can all have the job. I mean, somebody gets it, somebody doesn't. And how you deal with the not getting it.
Somebody who's put the effort into to learn about the company's values and
or maybe not. Maybe it's the bloody.
Themselves.
Maybe it's because it's me hiring and I know you, and I'm like, oh, Dean's my mate. He's going to have the job. How often does that happen? How often does the right person not get the job?
That's definitely a thing.
Yeah, but guess what?
Sure.
What do you do with that when you're not the person? What do you do? Do you say life's not fair? Do you say, God, whoa, life's not fair anymore? And I think that's where I don't like this removing of the kind of win or lose philosophy, where it's like, well, people do lose in life. Life's unfair. Mm-hmm. I like this. So I can't think who it was. God, I always love this bloke and I can never remember his name. I've done so much of his work. Oh, Good People Do Bad Things. He wrote that book, not Debbie Ford, because anyway, he talks about
why good people do bad things.
Yeah, there's two books. One, the same title, Debbie Ford wrote one, Shadow Work, and this chap, well, I can't remember, he's massive. I never remember him on this bloody podcast. Anyway, and I was looking at his stuff last night. We talk about these contracts we hold with life. We hold these contracts with life. Well, if I work hard and I'm a good person, life will be good to me. It's not true.
No, it's not true.
But we hold that contract. That's how it should be. It's like, no, that's not how it is. Bad people do horrible things. We were kind of talking about it in the cafe, I think, weren't we? What were we talking about in the cafe? I was saying, like, there's a lot of big companies. If you're a big business, they bend the rules, they get away with things. God, they hide money, they do this. Small businesses can often get absolutely shafted. Mm-hmm. But if you play all the rules and do the right stuff, you get rewarded. Often not.
Yeah, that doesn't work. But I also think it's important not to fall into that mentality of focusing on blame and pointing the finger.
Exactly.
Even though reality is, you know, life's unfair, business is unfair, health is unfair sometimes. Me and you're relatively healthy guys. We were talking earlier, we both had autoimmune problems. We just get struck down and set back massively with these things. But
do you think, to interrupt you, the blame comes when we say, well, life shouldn't be like this. I've been good. And there's no losers. Why have I lost? I've been a good person. Why haven't I got what they've got?
We could blame the doctors and the NHS. But I think if we're always putting ourselves in the mindset of like, what is within my control? What can I do? What can I take charge of? Is there things that I can do about this? And we focus more on that, then we're likely to move forward, whether it's in health, whether it's in business, relationships. You know, we're always going to be hit with bad luck and setbacks.
Yeah, and I think that's when we build a mindset of nobody loses, nobody wins, I think we're ill prepared to deal with life's losses. Mm-hmm. When you remove that element, because we don't want to upset anyone, life upsets people all the time. Yeah. How are you going to deal with that? If you've never been experienced, I think sport's great. I think putting yourself in a position where you can fail, great, because we also forget, if we take away losing and winning, we start saying, well, everyone gets. So we seem to think that we should just have. So, you know, that can be the mindset that can spring from that.
Is that what communism is?
I have no idea. I wouldn't. Who knows? It's on those lines of like, well, the winners are almost, maybe they're lucky. I mean, you're just lucky because, you know, you've won. And it's like, well, no, we sometimes, if there's no winners or losers in anything, do we, I'm asking the question rhetorically, I suppose. Do we think that, I should just be able to experience the same as everyone else? Because a lot of the time people who win at things have put in more effort. Who've done more work.
Yeah.
You know, they've prepared better. Whatever. Maybe they're working harder. So I think, I like the way you said you built self-esteem and confidence through competition. Because I think society is trying to remove competition because they think it reduces confidence and self-esteem.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
And then if you have a society full of people who have never truly been challenged, then how does society grow? How does society improve? That's just like a suppression of great ideas, a suppression of drive to improve what we've already got, the systems that society runs on.
And do you think pushing past your fears is something you did in the army?
For sure.
I'm not trying to load that question. I'm just wondering.
For sure. Yeah, I just had to think about that for a second. Like, what were any fears? Can't think of any specific fears, but I suppose, on a personal note, I'm quite what you might call an introvert, right? So you can imagine, the stuff which you've been talking about, and I mentioned the army was a very transformational career path for me. And that's what a lot of people used to say back home when I like, your confidence was through the roof, without giving any specific examples. But I suppose when you're put in an environment where you have to speak up, you have to do icebreakers, introduce yourself in a group, you have to practice leadership roles, you're nurtured for promotion, you're challenged beyond your wildest dreams. Do you know what I mean? You're doing things that you never thought you would possibly do.
You're rolling out of tanks, mate. At how old?
Say again?
There we are. You're rolling out of tanks at how old?
Oh,
how old are you when you rolled out of that tank?
In Afghanistan, 21.
So at 21 years old, you're getting hit by a bomb. You're rolling out of a tank. You're aiming something you need to aim at to take out something.
Yeah.
And then you're rolling back in, and then you're going home with ringing in your ears. We're not going home, back wherever. And you're going to do it again. At 21.
You're still a pup.
21.
You don't think you are at the time.
You don't think you think you're the nuts at 21.
Especially being a full screw. You're a corporal. So you've got responsibility. You're in charge of a small team.
Do you think that grows confidence, responsibility?
For sure. It definitely grew confidence. At the same time, made me quite nervous as well, because I'm like, fucking responsible for these guys. Do you know what I mean? I need to do a good job.
Is that a bad thing though?
No, it's good accountability, isn't it? If you have that worry, that concern that you need to be at your highest standard to look after your team and make sure everything's going smoothly.
My uncle, he made it late 80s now. He was one of the final people, I think, to go through national service, late 80s. Supposed to be late 80s, isn't he? And I think I told this on here before, but we were working, he was builder, my dad, and they left me. I was like working in the summer for them, about 17, 18, they left me on a job. And they come back and I wasn't there because I'd taken the people's daughter to the pub. And I remember he went nuts and said to my dad, he needs to be in the army. That's what he said, like, he needs to be in the army, box for the army. Lovely bloke, Uncle Dennis. I remember him saying that. He needs to get in the army, do you good. I'm wondering why he thought it would have done me good, but do you think, I don't know, what I'm hearing from a lot of people in the army, I suppose, and I spoke to Dave about this, is it that sometimes the standards you're expected to adhere to must build confidence in yourself? The way you look after yourself, the way you look after your stuff, it seems as heavy on that.
Yeah.
Like your room, your uniform, it's like how you present yourself. Jordan Peterson, I think, talks about this a little bit, and how you present yourself can do a lot for you, for your psyche, in essence.
The first 6 weeks is hideous for that stuff. Your 6 week basic training, regardless to craft. Some people are going to be infantry, some people are going to be vets or dog handlers or all these engineers, all these different jobs. But usually in the first 6 weeks, you've got a blend of everyone who's coming in for different trades. Well, at least in the when I did basic training, that's the way it was. We all go through the basics first. And the basics is learning to march, learning to shave. I didn't even need to shave.
Yeah, so did you have to do it anyway?
I didn't even have bum fluff at 16.
What a saying, bum fluff.
So
I haven't heard that for years.
I remember saying, Corporal, I don't need to shave. Mate, you want to see the hounding I got? Like, but that's how you learn. Yeah, so I sent out running and crawling across the grass for saying, Corporal, I don't need to shave. I didn't, but you have to get into the routine of shaving. It's a personal standard that you have to adhere to.
Personal standards. I love, that's the sentence I'm looking for.
And also when you're in uniform, it's drilled from an early stage, you're representing the Queen. And in fact, these days they allow beards. That's been recent. So beards are, I think, are an okay thing now. But back then, you're up every morning, you're shaving, you're cleaning things like you've never cleaned before in your life. I remember, because you would have room inspections and your corporal would come in or the platoon sergeant and do a room inspection, and if there's one thing out of place, he's smashing up your whole room. He's trashing everything. You've been up till early hours in the morning cleaning this room. Your bed sheets should be so tight, you drop a pound coin, it better bounce up and he can catch it again. People are ironing their bed sheets. The scuttings, we had black scuttings, but they were kind of scuffed and stuff. Our corporal had us polishing the scuttings. So we'd put polish, the polish we use on.
And is that literally personal standards, or they try and teach you consequence?
No, so they're taking it to extremes.
Yeah.
You don't do it to that level when you're actually in. When you get in, there's a big sense of relief. It's like, now we're going to get treated like adults.
You're not getting the cherry blossom out on you.
To a certain degree. There's obviously still lots of rules and standards to adhere to, but it's a lot more chilled and relaxed, and now you're in your platoon. This is your family. This is how.
Surely, if you can't take instruction, you ain't making it through. No. If you hate authority, you can't make it through.
There's still some people who make it through, and they don't go very far. Doesn't mean to say they're bad people, and a few guys I really like, but excuse me, they just didn't do well with the authority part of it, and they were quite rebellious and often getting into shit, and they end up just signing off.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You probably need a bit of that in you. It's a weird one. You must need a bit of I need a bit of fire in me, maybe, I don't know. But at the same time, if you can't follow instructions, you can't be good to anyone, surely, in that kind of role.
Yeah.
Do you think now, but I look at society now and, I'm part of society, so is you. I said this on a previous episode with Matt Wilkes, maybe people don't trust. We touched upon it. Would you send your boy to the army? And you said, not for this government, probably.
Do
we feel like there's a mistrust in
the government and politicians,
in society and people and the hierarchy?
Absolutely.
It's everywhere now, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely
everywhere. Skepticism, all-time high. I think COVID has got to play a part in that.
100%. But also, now that everyone has access to information at the tip of their fingers, we kind of know better. We know lots of these wars are based on greed and oil.
It's interesting what you say about your personal standards, though. There's a chap at a pub I go to, hotel. He was a chef, and he was an agency chef. Lovely bloke, older chap. And he was in the RAF like his whole term or whatever, like a long time. I can't remember how long he told me, but it was like his pretty much whole adult life. And bloke was immaculate when he come in after his shift. You know what I mean? Like shaven, clean, just immaculate. You could just tell he held himself in a certain way. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? You think, God, this man, he was confident, but he was quiet. He wasn't loud, but he was funny, he was humorous. But I don't know, he had this kind of aura about him where you're like, yeah, he's put together. Do you know what I mean? He's not wandering in fucking out of shape, slovenly. He just had this aura about him where you felt like you were talking to somebody of a bit of stature, but he wasn't arrogant. It's hard to explain. He wasn't like an arrogant person. When you just spoke to him, you're like, yeah, I'm talking to somebody who's put together and holds himself well. And I think that's got to come from that almost indoctrination of that style.
The military can definitely do that to you. You get institutionalized in the military, for sure. And that's why it can be hard to leave.
Yeah.
Everything's now on you.
Is it us and them a little bit? Can it be a bit us and them? Like you talk about civilians,
Oh, for sure.
Us and them.
For sure.
It's like, look at us.
By the way,
so it could be arrogant. You could end up being almost arrogant.
Yeah, there's definitely an arrogance that comes from it as well, because we are taught that we're better than civvies.
That's brilliant. I love that.
And that's what we call it Civvy Street. The military is like its own world. To a certain degree, we have like our own laws within the military, our own police, handle a lot of things in-house when it can be handled in-house. And it's a good thing as well.
It's like a lot of communities.
We can...
Traveller community.
Well, yep.
How many communities are there on world?
We'll look after each other, but we'll also punish each other when it needs done.
When you came out, how did you forge your new identity?
Well, I didn't initially.
I know, but so how did you though? I mean, what happened?
I don't think I had a strategy to do that. I think I was stuck in an identity crisis for a while. Do you know what I mean? That was one of my biggest struggles. I was also going through a hard time, which I have done multiple times. We spoke about before in relation to access to the kids. Lots of legal battles and stuff. But at the time, because when I left the military, I was struggling with that side of it, the identity stuff, and just a lot of stress in general. And also on and off, going through a lot of challenges, getting consistent access to spending time with the kids. And so, to be fair, I don't think I was in a good place to start a business, never mind a coaching business where I was supposed to be helping people. I was a bit of a angry, reactive, pissed off, stressed out person for maybe a couple of years.
I was about to say, when I met you, you were great, but you said when you were there, you could sense you had some anger and frustration around lots of things, didn't you?
Yeah.
You know, I love
massive anger issues. Proper like 0 to 100, reactive, snappy. But it was just like living with like chronic stress.
Had you always been like that though? Or did that did that become more profound through leaving the military or in the military?
No, I think there was elements of that when I was still in the military. And a lot of it came down to long-term financial stress. I didn't used to be good with money, and also relationship stress. Relationship stress, choosing the wrong spouses has been incredibly difficult. Big mistake. That can be quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Catastrophic on your life.
Yeah, having the wrong partner.
If you let it. Yeah, having the right partner, for sure.
So having the right partner, if the wrong partner is catastrophic, the right partner is absolutely transformative.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think we all need somebody who understands us, who loves us, for who we are.
Yeah.
Who we want to be better for maybe sometimes. You want to be better for yourself, but sometimes when you're part of a strong relationship with anyone, isn't it? You're talking about intimate, but anyone, they build you up, don't they? Yeah,
for sure. Aye.
It's
such a big part of your life. So that, if it's not a positive part, that's feeding into everything that you do.
Yeah.
Everything. And it's going to limit. It's going to either limit or elevate the direction you're going in.
I think you've touched upon it, and I think...
And we can see the same thing for
You're on about stress, though.
What's that?
You're on about stress.
Yeah.
You've touched upon two of the biggest stresses anyone's going to go through: relationship issues, financial issues.
Yeah. And actually, this is one of the reasons that I decided to get good with money and get better at business, partly why I hired you before to help me get better at business and business strategy. It was all the shit that I went through. And initially, when kids were removed from me and I can't do anything because, you'd just be arrested, I didn't have any money for legal fees. So my hands were tied. And I've just thought like nothing like that will ever happen to me again. But that was me got myself in that situation. And it's quite common for a lot of guys in the military because we come from social housing backgrounds. Nobody teaches to be good with money. We learn, get money, fucking spend it. It just gets spent. We don't know what to do with it. So I was living in my overdraft for maybe a couple of years. I would get paid and maybe head would just go above water.
Back in.
And then it's straight back in.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I had 2 loans to pay off, car finance and 2 maxed out credit cards, all in the one go. It was like a constant daily stress for a long time.
Isn't it mad? I say this all the time. I wrote it on Facebook ages ago. It's like, if you look at the common stressors, we talk about stress and you've got to increase your capacity to deal with stress, all the stuff we're talking about, your personal standards, mindset, what can I control, what can't I? If you're trying to control what you can't, you'll always be stressed. But actually sometimes it's like what are the actual triggers and stresses in my life? Some you can't control. That's perspective then. But some you can. Like, I can't believe we don't teach young adults to be good with money, how to communicate.
Yeah.
You know, the importance of money, how it makes the world, how it operates in your life, how to look after it, how to keep it. It's almost like people don't want you to bloody keep it.
We're pretty sure that they don't. Right?
I mean, it's like, yeah, don't teach anyone to handle money.
Society,
they
like
know what to do.
Like a big fishbowl.
Yeah, but you know, you do think these are the real key issues, isn't there?
Yeah.
That
These
people
are
don't
things
teach us.
that we need to be taught in school, because these are the things that help actually make a difference in our lives. Being good first and foremost with personal financial hygiene.
Financial hygiene.
Financial hygiene.
I like that.
In simple terms, not spending more than you make. And so many people, especially where I come from, are spending more than they make. I know people who have jobs that they personally pocket more money than me every month, which is, you know, they're doing all right, and they're fucking broke, right?
Yeah.
Because they're driving, you know, £1,200 a month car lease.
Yeah.
They'll get maybe 2 homes going in the one go. The missus is spending every paycheck on holidays, and
Yeah, it was funny, and you know, you never want to, money is such a taboo triggering subject, but you know, when it came out, oh God, it's heating or eating, you know, like when the heat crisis, I looked at a lot of people and thought, heating or eating? Look at your fucking brand new car you got there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me you're the person who's struggling for heating or eating because you don't have any money, or actually you do bring a fair bit of money. You know, you wouldn't have that nice brand new car. You just spend it all. If you bring in 20 grand a month and spend 21, you're still fucking broke, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I feel for the people who genuinely are in the shit in anything in life.
If we don't get on top of it and change those financial habits, they just grow and expand with your income. So the problems just, Biggie Small says, more money, more problems. They tend to...
Yeah, and it's not simple. Everyone's got their own, you know, everyone's got shit going on and things happen to us. I get all that. But sometimes you think there's people out there, you think, no, you're living a lifestyle that you can't afford.
Yeah.
And I think I watched a chap online, a money expert, and he said, if you earn 80 grand a year and you've got a 50 grand car, you can't afford it. So it's like, don't buy it.
Yeah.
The trouble is now, a lot of new cars are like that much money. Everything's gone up. But it made me think when reasoning, like, yeah, he's probably right. Like, do you know what I mean? Maybe you get a cheaper one than that. So yeah, I think money, relationships, mate. Do you think relationships coming out of the army, sounds like you're bouncing from one bad one to the other?
Yeah, I had a few.
Was that because you were in a shit spot?
Yeah, I made a lot of bad choices. I think a lot of it was like emotional reactions, and I was in a shit spot, stressed out chronically for so long. So I went from one relationship soon into another one. Sometimes it was women with similar traits. Do you know what I mean? Bit of a glutton for punishment.
Definitely learn from the last one. They're probably saying the same about you somewhere. Remember that fucking Dean?
Yeah, and that's fine. I understand this can seem like you're kind of just throwing people under the bus. It's not like that. Some
2 to tango.
We're not good. You need to make sure that someone's a good match for you. And that's another thing that we're not taught, right? Some people are just not a good match for multiple different reasons. And we can get ourselves stuck in relationships that make us unhappy.
Yeah, there's
not just make us unhappy, because I think some people can be in a relationship where it's maybe not the best relationship for them. It's also not volatile. It's not a toxic relationship, but it's just meh, right? And then there's relationships that are just toxic.
Yeah,
there's some violence in there.
Completely dysfunctional.
Yeah, it's dysfunctional.
Yeah. Not like we're having a bit of a bad time here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, this is destructive.
For sure. Yeah.
So and there's nothing.
And both parties responsible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not one to shift blame. I like to take responsibility.
Well, you said you're an angry reactor. You can't imagine you were that easy either. Yeah. But we're all like that. We've all been in those spots, haven't we, where you think, God, I'm not exactly the easiest to be with. And
I tell you what, drinking drugs don't help them out either.
Drinking drugs probably don't, do they?
No, they don't. But culturally, in our society, this is normal. Especially drink. Maybe not so much drugs for everyone, depending on where you come from. Where I come from, and me and my mates who are kind of like out of that circle now, we talk about this a lot. When we were growing up, that besides your father and my father sold weed, right? He was like a well-respected guy in the community, so you're like, and he was my hero. He was a great dad. Just didn't set some good habits in some areas. But it's like, I want to be like him. If you look at some of the older boys who were selling drugs, guys had cars before they had licenses, nice cars, good clothes, all the chicks. Like, that's the dude I want to be. We didn't have internet at the time either. No. And this is obviously before the army got hold of me, which was a blessing.
It sounds like you had that life, then an army life, and then came back out.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing that you've just spoke about that and you go, I got in the army and some people got me in shape. They showed me some possibilities, raised your personal standards, raised your confidence, raised your self-esteem, really. And you like, I'm a well put together bloke. I'm got responsibility. I'm fighting a war. I'm with my friends. I can't hear anymore, roughly. Let's just keep it simple. And then you're like, I'm out. And then you describe this version of a life, which is in absolute massive contrast to that, isn't it? It's like, then I become destructive and angry.
The military has definitely some toxic influences as well.
Well, I wasn't trying to say if it was that, but I was thinking, isn't that mad how you go from like, look at me, to life incident, I can't control it, to spiraling.
Yeah, because alcohol is a big cultural thing in the military. I think there might be more awareness to it being a problem now. And there's some things being possibly put in place to help encourage lads not to do that all the time. But we're pissed all the time. A lot of times showing up at 8 o'clock in the morning for platoon company PT. Half the guys have just fucking came off a night out. Do you know what I mean? So
on one level, we're talking about personal standards, and then we're all into that. But they're still
professional alcoholics.
Professional alcoholics,
and there was a lot of, and that's why I mentioned, we deal and punish people who need punished in-house a lot of time as well, because so many of the guys are under the influence every weekend, weeknights as well, a lot of the time. Get into a lot of shit. Do you know what I mean? Brawls in the bars, smashing places up, sometimes in camp, sometimes out of camp, getting into fights between platoons and companies. And when we come back from Afghanistan, we take it to Cyprus first, and they pen us in. We're literally in a cage camp, because we used to be posted in Cyprus, so the thought of going back to Cyprus was amazing. Then realised, okay, we're gated in this camp, this big cage, and they put in a couple of pop-up bars and stuff. The purpose for that is to decompress. We've just spent 7 months in the desert heat,
fighting,
getting pissed off with each other, even though a lot of us have been best mates, brothers, take a bullet for each other, no problem. But you're at the point, he's fucking doing my tits in him. And they know they need to cage us in somewhere, let us get pissed. Otherwise they're going to take us, and that's going to go out in the streets of Edinburgh.
Yeah, you're going to be in Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Manchester, just like kicking off with some civilians.
And sure enough, there's some fights kicking off and chairs getting flung everywhere and stuff, and there's people with black eyes and busted noses the next morning, and then they just hug it out and make up, and it's all good. Now we can go home.
Gotta be a decompression, isn't it?
That's exactly what it's called. It's decompression. 2 days decompression.
Like mentally, you must have to give your time space in a new environment to process your stress level. Your nervous system must be jacked.
Yeah, you don't,
and it must have to just.
I don't think you're personally aware of that at the time,
but who is? Look in life, people I watched a bloke on the motorway on the way back from Doncaster last time, flashing and right up this person's ass, and the bloke he was braking, and you think you're going to kill all of us, you carry on. I'm thinking, what's that to happen in your day that you're like, he's come across you slightly in traffic and now we're all nearly going to die.
Yeah.
Because you want to brake and, and they're like, bloody hell, and everyone's having to slam their brakes on. And you think, on a motorway, you think, where have you just been, or what's going on in your life that has sparked you into that response? And no one realizes. Pretty much everyone I deal with who rolls into any course does not realize they're probably fried.
Yeah.
Nervous system. They don't realize. We just go, we normalize it. This is just life. It's like, mate, when you come out of that, you'll be like, holy shit.
I have so many guys come into the program who are on 5-6 cans of Monster a day, plus the coffee. So, and trying to get them off of that is difficult.
And the stress, we're rushing everywhere. School drop-off's the best, mate. I love it. It's such a nice, quiet school my little boy's at. But, you know, everyone's trying to get to work, isn't they? Everyone's dropping somebody off. Just wrestle your kids there, dropping them off, getting to work. You're like, the pace. You probably get to work. Oh, great, get to work. Rattle through your work. Get home, picks people up. It's this constant contraction.
Mm-hmm.
And you think a lot of people don't have, some people, you know, I never like to say people just don't, you know, have that, you know, don't go and look after themselves. I think sometimes people have got much limitations, you know. If you're a single parent with a load of kids and, you know, everyone's got different circumstances. Maybe you can't quite get out in the evening if they're young. But how often do we have spaces where we can just go, oh, I'm just going to, like what you just said, just decompress from my day in a healthy way? Or is our decompression like,
in front of the TV. Yeah.
And we're not really even interested in what we're watching. It's just, I'm just
watching
knackered.
the TV through the mobile phone.
Yeah, like clicking through. I love that on the Facebook. I saw a meme. It was like, does anyone recommend a good Netflix series that I can scroll my phone, scroll my phone through or something? You're like, yeah, just have on in the background. But where do we get these decompressions in our fast-paced lifestyle? Hey, I'm not comparing that to blowing up people and going through losing friends. It's you know, if we take out the actual content of that, you know, and just go, how are people rushing around and living? You can see why we're just burnt out, sedating with shit food and all the rest of it. Sorry to interrupt you. Mark, how long have we been on here for? Because I'm loving this, and my timer behind Dino's head's not working. 62. Let's keep
Time
going.
flies.
Yeah.
Time flies.
But we can talk about this because you're here for 3 or 4 episodes, and I want to get into that in a separate thing about men and what the work you're doing with men around food and all the rest of it. But there's no wonder, like, well-being is spiraling out of control for most of society when we have lifestyles that don't really support health, do we? And I don't mean like what we choose to do behaviors. I mean, just the setup of our day. I feel very fortunate that I can start my day when I want and within reason.
Yeah.
So must you. Nice leisurely morning, really, and do what I enjoy for a living. And a lot of people don't have that.
One thing like I did have my mind on when I was in the military was one day I'll leave the military, and before I start any work, whatever my next life is, I'll have a chilled morning. I'll walk my dog, read the paper, although the paper thing's not part of my day because I know better now.
How old are you?
When I was thinking that, really young, aye. But I was thinking beyond retirement from the military. I'll just have a chilled morning, have my coffee, walk a dog, read a paper, then I'll get to my work. I didn't have a clue what I'd be doing. But my day is, without the paper, my day is pretty much that. I get the dogs out before I do anything. The new dog is diving deeper into actually training dogs with him, which is great. So it's like I get to get in the zone and practice some skills and drills, and then we go Costa Coffee before I
One of my most cost-effective ads is targeting people interested in dog training.
Serious?
Look at your eyes light up. He loves talking about marketing. Really? Yeah.
That's interesting. We've talked more about that later.
We shall on lunch. Yeah. That and music,
awesome.
A stack of music interests. Everyone you know has got a dog, really, ain't they? A lot of people interested. You look at online dog training, it's massive now. You look at a dog train on Facebook, their videos get like 50,000 likes and stuff.
I love
people are engaging with that because people got dogs and we don't know how to fucking train them. Like, got a spaniel, you're like, this thing's nuts. What's wrong with him? I think I don't know how to handle him. I
love the discipline aspect of it, the routine, learning new skills.
Oh, that comes as a surprise to you. Surprise to you.
Especially with Bruce, the new one. He's my first large breed. He's going to be about 50, 60 kilos.
Fuck, you know. I want to just quickly move into some, because I want to go full circle. Because you had this period where you're the man in the army. You're not the man. You know what I'm saying? You're like, hey, I'm doing well here. You have this period, you come out, you're like, holy shit, failed relationship, terrible money, crisis of identity. Now, you have rebuilt yourself to someone I see. Well, you know, when my the mastermind I'm in said, hey, do you want to you can bring a coach to the next mastermind. We're not going to sell them, which I doubt they did they?
Yeah, no, he didn't, no.
He's like, just bring them. We want good coaches in the room. Who do you know? But they got to be spot on. Obviously, you're in Glasgow, but I wouldn't have invited you if you weren't spot on, because that would have been a reflection of me, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? It'd been like, who's this? I thought you said he was spot on. He's like, yeah. But, you know, you're a well put together businessman. Physically in good nick. Again. Oh, you're going to say I'm not, but let's just say you're in reasonable nick, Dino. Come on.
You mentioned rebuilding. Like, I'm in the process of like rebuilding myself physically.
Well, let me just compliment you for a minute.
Yeah.
But you're in good nick, aren't you? I don't go, fuck me, Dino. What happened? Like, you're a fat kid. You know, what's happened to you?
Yeah.
You know, you're in good nick. You turn up. I said to you today, but yeah, Dino, you're dressed nice. And you financially, you're very well put together. I know that because, as in the way you approach money, because I worked with you.
Yeah.
And you were very well put together financially, very, as in like how you handled your finances. You've got a great business that it does what you love. You probably read the paper in the morning because you're bored sod. But
that's the only thing that
because people don't have papers.
I don't watch the news either.
Nah,
for the obvious reasons.
No, but you know, you've got put out good quality content. You write well. You've learned to market. You're a very good copywriter. You're good at all these things, and you seem like switched on. Your dad's been ill, but you're handling that. You've had a lot going on, haven't you?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in another episode. You know, your partner's dad recently passed away. You had all this stuff going on, but you're cracking on in life, aren't you?
Yeah.
What was a turning point for you? Because I need to know that for myself. How you went from like, a bit of a young, dysfunctional lad. Great army career. Oh God, you know, can't be in the army. Identity crisis, failed relationships. Now you're in a solid one. You know, you seem happy. Like, what's been the big turning point? What qualities? I don't know. Where would you go if I'm a young man looking at you saying, yeah, that's happened to me. Like, how did you put yourself back together? I need to know.
I don't think there was any one turning point or like straw that broke the camel's back. Like, we've spoke about multiple different things that were wrong and causing a lot of chronic stress. I think it's just getting, from an emotional standpoint, it's just being sick of it and wanting change. But some of the things that have helped me improve is going back to being exposed to other people who have their shit together. Like when I met you at Paul's thing, then you're in a room with a guy who's doing, $250,000 every quarter of the year, and people setting goals. Then physically as well, from the military, soon after I left, I joined a CrossFit gym, CrossFit Glasgow. That was a great experience. And you're around a lot of people who, I was a fit guy being in the military, and then all of a sudden there's chicks outlifting me massively. And I'm like, oh yeah, we can't.
You were really gentle then.
Yeah,
you were really gentle.
If
you're listening and Dino keeps wanting to bang the table.
You're in this environment where there's so many people who are just miles better than you, even females.
But you thrive off that, it seems.
And you're like, I need to get my shit together. Right? So I think it's putting yourself in situations where you're exposed to others who push you to level your standards. And again, for me, those have been situations in both business and fitness.
Did you find a bit of another tribe, do you think?
With CrossFit, definitely. Although, regrettably and non-regrettably, like I left CrossFit because I kept getting injured.
Common though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's common.
It's common.
It's the volume and the competitive nature of that kind of sport.
There was definitely some smarter things I could have done, but my intentions were to go back once I'd sorted the injuries. But then I found Jason Ferrugia, and I was following his programs. I was liking that stuff. So I followed his stuff for a long time. And then
I think,
like I said, business wise, it's getting.
You got in rooms,
like
is what I'm saying. You got around people again. Yeah. You obviously in the army, you're around people, weren't you?
Yeah.
You go, God, there's people doing. I think it opens up, like we said, it opens up possibility when you see other people doing things.
Yeah.
If you're willing to see it though, because you could have looked at them people and went,
absolutely.
Oh God, they're so much better than me. I suck. Do you know what I mean? There is that fine line. That's interesting. We'll have to talk about that. Maybe moving forward, how that happens. But what was the number one? You got into your physicality immediately, didn't you? Yeah. Really? You went straight into body. But you've made some shifts mentally and emotionally. You must have.
I think I started realising that I had some real mental issues going on when we did that 3-day thing with Paul, because it turned out to be not just business stuff. It was very largely doing the work. You remember that stuff?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, I'm fucked up. I'm fucked up. Like, so that was an eye-opening experience. That was like the start of first being aware that there's some issues, and then, and I wouldn't say things got dramatically better immediately.
So
Like,
once you become aware, though, what was something you picked up, practice? Was there some kind of something you got into? If I'm a young man, I'm hearing I got to get around people, get on top of my physical standards, really, if we use that term.
Yeah.
You know, look after myself physically, get moving, get lifting, you know, challenge myself physically is something that's worked for you there, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that isn't going to necessarily change you mentally and emotionally. It's going to bleed into mental, emotional. But I hate it when people say, oh, I'll just train, that fixes everything. Because it doesn't. I've been super fit in my life and really unhappy, really insecure.
Yeah, same.
You know, so it's not the same, but it's a good pillar.
It's one of the pillars.
Yeah. What apart from what you're chucking in down your neck and what you're, you know, moving, was there anything else? You must have made some steps really. Where you go, yeah, I read this book or I did this. I'm just interested because I've got a young boy and I'm like, well, sometimes you look at your own life and think, well, young boys don't often listen to their dads, do they? And also, I like another insight.
You're fucking right, they don't.
On the journey you went through. What would you say to somebody like that?
There was a few things. First, there was and you can add things in to your life, like getting around positive people, fitness, eating better, those sorting your finances. But sometimes you also have to kill the vampire, right? And the vampire for me, after I left the military, drink was still a thing. Even though I was super fit, I was a military trainer. Drink was still a thing for me. Left the military, cocaine was starting to become a thing, even though I was going into the business of fitness. And it's because I was going back into those same circles, people who were doing the same shit. And when it wasn't cocaine, it was an issue. It was the social activities of drinking with those people. And then once you're drunk, your standards completely visit the basement. You know, like fucking. And then that can quickly start to become a common occurrence. So I had to cut that shit. And to do that, I had to just stop spending time, or at least as much time, with the guys I hung around with that were doing that. And so, listen, some of them are still my best mates today. We just don't do the same things together unless it's catching up for a coffee.
So you change environments, you stopped certain things that you go, okay, rather than what I'm going to add, it's like, come on, if I just cut this shit out, that's going to help.
Because a lot of my problems are making bad decisions, financially, romantically.
Being drunk could do that for you, don't want it?
When you're drunk every weekend and still under the influence for days afterwards and coming off a hangover of both alcohol, cocaine, eckies, whatever.
I call that drunken logic. Drunken logic, where you go, drunken logic tells you that's okay.
That impacts a lot of behaviours throughout your week, every month, every year. Do you know what I mean? So we had to take that away. And then it was just, I can say there's a lot of specific things, but honestly, just adding in the right people, the right influences. Jason Fraser's podcast, guy doesn't know who I am, but his podcast changed my life just because it led me on to learning from other people that he might have had on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think somebody, it might have been his podcast, somebody mentioned, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Ramit Sethi.
So you really went and,
it was Ramit Sethi.
You went and upskilled your knowledge in key areas is what you did.
Yeah.
You went, I need to learn, so I'm going to go learn. In fact, if psychoanalyzing, that's been a big part of everywhere you've excelled. You touched upon the army, you were learning, you were doing things. Mm-hmm. You came out, you started learning again. Yeah. When you think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
You learned about fitness, about money. I always think removing the shit habit helps, not because of the habit, but because it's the disappointment that comes with the habits, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the self.
It brings a lot of disappointment.
Yeah. People will say, so how do you build well, I say people always say, but in the 5 days, stuff like that, wherever I get questions online, it's about, a lot of them about confidence. How do I become more confident? I'm like, well, there's loads of ways, people can hack confidence. But what do you do that really removes confidence from your life? You know, how did you lose your confidence?
Yeah. Yeah. If you have
Rather than how did you gain it, where are you losing it? And I find with habits I've had, and maybe you'll back me up, maybe you'll disagree, but it's not necessarily the habit sometimes, it's the fact that the view I have of myself after that's happened. Mm-hmm. It robs my self-esteem, my self-worth, my confidence, because here I am doing this again.
Yeah.
When I said I wouldn't.
Similar for a lot of people who try and get in shape. And that when they quit, then they feel disappointed about that. It's like a withdrawal from the confidence bank account. And one of the ways to become confident with fitness is just to keep doing the things that you said you were going to do. Keep your promises. You know, don't stop making promises, then breaking them.
Stop making stupid promises.
That's because there's lots of reasons that people fail, and that's one of them. It's starting out.
Let's hold that for
that's another conversation.
Because that's a whole. I don't want to rush that. But confidence, you sorted yourself out by upskilling your knowledge in key areas and enjoying it, finding people you admired, really.
Yeah.
Finding people that and that's my word, not yours, but it sounded like you found people you admired, you found like a bit more of a healthier community to hang out with for a little bit. Never dismissed your current one, but you went, okay. And you went, I need to eat the vampire, I think you said, or
kill the vampire,
don't eat it, which was like, I've got this habit here.
There's something sucking the blood out of you.
That needs, I like that. The vampire's because sucking the blood.
Yeah.
And you need to stop that. And so you actually shifted environments.
For sure.
More than anything.
Yeah.
Because that stopped you probably feeling shit about yourself.
Yeah. You mentioned having people that you admire. That's really important. You need people that you can emulate, people that you can look to as some kind of, and even as a grown man, I think we all need someone who's some kind of father figure, some kind of role model, someone who can mentor us in certain directions, and someone that you can trust and rely on to put your faith in and follow the steps that they advise. That's so valuable.
I think you've got to drop your ego to do that.
Yeah.
It's what
for sure.
We say in the industry, don't they? Oh, somebody's coachable or not coachable. And I don't necessarily like that term. You have to come to a place where you're willing to say, if you want to improve something, you have to come to a place where you're willing to say, I am your student.
Yeah.
I don't know the answers.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to say, I will listen to you and I will trust the process. I say that to all our clients coming through, trust the process. But we very often get caught up in our shit's different, you don't understand it. No. That's just a little bit of your ego. My son is watching Clone Wars.
What's that?
It's a cartoon, Star Wars. It's not the film, it's the cartoon. It's brilliant. But it's been so many series that towards the end, obviously the content changes as the audience grows up. So it's getting a bit more adult. And Yoda has to go off and learn how to, in the cartoon, it's really good actually, has to go off and learn how to keep his consciousness after death. Are you into Star Wars? You're not.
Yeah, I'm into Star Wars. Yeah.
You know, when he's like, he's like can talk. He's like a Force ghost, isn't he? You know, he had to learn to do that. So and to do that, he has to sort of cleanse his shadow. Shadow work. It's mad. And one of the things Yoda had to cleanse was his arrogance that he didn't have a shadow. You know, he had to become teachable. And I think if sometimes you look at people and you don't move forward because you think you're unteachable. You may not think you're unteachable, but you come across like you're unteachable. You've got the answers. I notice that a lot now with how much information is online. People know all the answers now. Yeah, I know that. I know this. I know that. It's like, well, why doesn't your life reflect it then?
Yeah.
And it's like, you sound harsh saying that. Well, it's like, well, no, tell me. You tell me you're not happy where you are, but you know everything. So you tell me why you're not where you are.
It's one of the biggest barriers that I get for potential clients. They stop themselves coming on board because they're like,
they know everything.
Just going to tell me stuff I already know.
Yeah, I know all this. It's like, so why you're not doing it then? That's why you're paying me to integrate this shit, isn't it? Because you don't know how to do it. And very often, I'm being really blunt, it sounds like my experience of that individual is they actually don't know half of what they think they know. It's just regurgitated information. They don't really know it. And sometimes you got to hold your hands up. I've had that in business.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you probably say Si knows a fair bit about business, marketing. So why for a long time were we stuck at a certain level? Because I was unwilling to see and ask the questions and learn from the people that I needed to learn from. That was my own arrogance. Why have I been stuck physically in times? Because, God, I used to train people, for fuck's sake. No, there was things I needed to see off somebody else. It's dropping the protection. It's being vulnerable, I think. Or we have to go, you know what? Maybe I don't know the answers here. Help me. That's so hard to say, I think. But I think the information has made us, so I want to rant here in a way, but in a nice way.
I think
people confuse information with knowledge.
I think that's worse in men than it is in women.
Possibly, I don't know. You train solely men.
I think men are more stubborn to ask for help.
Mm. And maybe more not wanting to look like we don't know the answers.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, that's
like,
a big thing.
I'm not saying like, if you hear this and you're like, bloody hell, like, I'm not saying people are arrogant or anything like that. I'm just saying there's this blocker sometimes with that. I won't let myself see this or let myself be helped. I'm kind of pretending I want to be helped, but really, and you're smiling because we've both done it. You've done it, right?
Yep.
I've done it. I was doing it maybe 6 months ago about something. I'm honest enough to hold my hand up and say, yeah, fuck, I needed to see that. And I didn't because I thought I had all the answers. I'm the all-knowing.
Yeah, or how many times have you been in a situation, a group, a coaching call, where you didn't ask the questions that you should have been asking to get unstuck and to get going again with something just because you didn't want to look silly?
Yeah. As Jung says, find your fear, you will find your task. But it's true, I think we often look, if we find what we're afraid of and we have the courage to ask and lean into it and get help. I don't like the word help sometimes because that almost feels a bit like guidance. I think sometimes is different to help. I think sometimes when we hear help, we almost feel like, oh, Dino's going to help me. It's kind of down to Dino.
Yeah.
But actually it's like, not help that we provide really, is it? It's guidance, it's coaching, it's mentoring, it's a direction. That it could be any of those things.
Yeah, but maybe the term help can come across like
we're a charity.
Like I'm someone who needs to be saved.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it can make you feel a bit weaker.
Yeah.
I need help.
Inferior.
Can't it? And I'm kind of piecing this together now. Whereas the language of, hey, I could do some guidance kind of feels a bit more.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's why James Smith titled one of his books the way he did. Not a life coach or something like that. Because...
Not that he cares.
Yeah, not that he cares. But I remember hearing him talk about it. And it's because like people are less likely to buy a book that's almost in purchasing the book as an admission of, I need help.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Disappointing book, that.
Was it? I've not read.
He doesn't care what I think. I like it. I actually like his work, and I take the myth. I like his work. I don't like it sometimes when he brings people up on video and crucifies them in front of his following. That's his style, not mine. I'd be like, it's not very nice. Would you do that if I saw you in Aldi? But don't know. Maybe you'd armbar me. But do you know what I mean?
Maybe he does jiu-jitsu, doesn't he? Maybe.
Yeah. And if you do that, you're like impossible to get near. But his book was. I think his fitness stuff's great. His mindset stuff's particularly for me. Yeah, it's probably for loads of other people, but I was like, it's kind of a bit not for me. We'll just leave it there.
Haven't read it.
No, I mean, I've got it on my shelf. I always think you should, someone taught me, don't always read what you believe. No, don't believe what you read. Don't always believe what you read. And don't only read what you believe, if that makes sense. So stop reading things that just back up what you believe.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't think this is going to be any good, so I'll read it. And I actually there was some good chunks where you're like, this is cool. I can see where you're coming from. There's some where you're like, nah, probably not necessarily factually true, but people probably read my book and think the same. Anyway, moving off that. Mate, I've loved this conversation.
It's been good.
Hour and 22 minutes, exactly. 35 seconds and 38 seconds. So I'm just trying to think. I'm excited because I know I want to talk to you about so much more. I've got 3 more episodes. I'm going to jump straight after. But if I'm looking at this thinking, what do I take from it? There's so much. So much when you think how you've transformed Ryan.
I think
cool.
For a big lesson for me in reflection to the past 10 to 20 years, everything's always involved peers that push you, mentors that guide you. Even in the military, you don't become who you become without all that. From day one, you're surrounded by section commanders, platoon sergeants. Don't get me wrong, you come across your fair share of fucking dickheads with a power trip, but a lot of them have been a massive, great impact. And even today, sometimes I reflect back on like my very first section commander in basic training, and I think about his standards, like how he presented himself. Immaculate guy. And he was a really good leader, hard when he needed to be, but at the same time, great at building you up. And I think it's good to have those people in your life at no matter what age you are, that you can always relate back to for an example.
Mm. Yeah, I've taken personally, I've left it thinking the importance of continuing to learn.
Yeah.
And learn about the areas that are going to help you probably as well. It's easy to learn about stuff you don't need to learn about.
Learn and do is a key thing as well, isn't it? It's hard to do when it's so easy to overlearn and overconsume information.
That becomes a form of procrastination.
Yeah. And sometimes I get that a lot as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need to draw the line and say, hey, put the books down.
I've got enough.
Cancel the podcasts for a bit and let's go and work on some stuff.
Yeah. No, but you need to do the learning. You need to see the possibilities. That little bit of new information has helped you. Like you said, no one taught you how to deal with money. You had to go learn. You learned that. You were like, wow, look at this. Brilliant. I should be doing this. And then you went and did it. But without the initial shot of learning, you wouldn't have been able to do it. So we have to have that new learning. It's just, I think, when we keep going on, maybe I just need to learn a little bit more. Yeah. When do you know enough just to go, okay, I need to start learning how to integrate it? I think there's a difference between learning, well, that's what I should be doing. Then we got to integrate that into our lives. And that's a learning process in itself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when it comes to integrating, I think most people probably, again, we'll talk more about this later on why people fail, but it's like trying to integrate too much. So if I'm reading a book or taking something from a person, it's like one main thing. Do you know what I mean? Like some of the books that I read on finances, I wasn't interested in learning about investing back then because I had to get my fucking house in order. Like, never mind I had my means of making more money through business, but trying to get my money working for me, I wasn't working for my money.
Right information,
I had to fix that.
Right time.
Yeah, I had to fix that first.
Have you ever read a book back and gone,
yeah,
this is amazing?
Yeah.
The E-Myth was that for me. I read it 6-7 years ago and I was like,
Essentialism's one I've read.
I was like, whatever, this isn't for me. I read it a year ago and I was like, oh my God, everything in here is what I need to be thinking.
Yeah.
Right information, right time. Do you think often this is for a later podcast, but how often do we search for information?
It's not at a level.
That's just not relevant
not at
for
that
us.
level yet. Yeah.
We have to be humble, right? I used to do that with piano, try and play songs. I'd be like, right, I want to learn a song. Okay, that's a grade 6 in this bloke's piano thing. I'd be like, really, a 1 in his system, not actual grades. Right, I'm going to play that. And he'd be like, never go too advanced. And there I am trying to play this song. You think, this is horrible. I'm not enjoying it. And you're like, I'm just trying to access something I'm not ready for.
Yeah.
Whereas when I went back to the number 1 songs, I'm just doing that so people know what 1 is. So, it was like,
it's a rite of passage, isn't it?
Yeah. But again, that was my own arrogance and ego.
Yeah. You're not going to try and learn the Olympic snatch before you can deadlift or...
But we do that mentally, mate. I use that analogy all the time. I'm like, why are you trying? Mentally, we're trying to learn the Olympic snatch when really we need to be walking. We need to be thinking about what we might eat. We don't need to be thinking about those. But mentally, people think, the more advanced the concept, the better. I've read all these books. It's like, no. What do you need to do initially, mentally? What I do now, after 10 years of literally dedicating to trying to, the practical concepts of how to create a mind and body and whatever, is completely different. What I'm doing now is completely different to 10 years ago when I first started. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, similar foundations, similar things, still basics there. But 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been going, I'm going to do loads of neurofeedback and wire my brain up and I didn't need to do that. I needed to figure out how to write some things down I appreciated or something.
Yeah.
I didn't need to be doing any of that. And that's not because I'm a better person than I was then. It's just because my training, I'm more capable of doing these things now. But it's the same, isn't it? Mentally, I'm all over the shop. I probably need to do this. Like, no, just start there. But I think we convince ourselves, well, that's too easy. Well, demonstrate it for a while.
Step one.
Step one step at a time. Dino, you're an absolute star. I'm dying for a pee.
Same.
I absolutely love you. I can't wait to have these further conversations. I forgot how articulate you are. Very articulate man. You're like staring at me now.
I'm articulate. Maybe because I'm trying to slow down.
Oh,
because I'm aware.
You express yourself well.
The Glaswegian accent's quite strong, and I can talk quite fast, especially when I'm caffeinated. So I'm consciously slowing myself down for the purpose of this.
We've got a lot of Irish members. Did a live wisdom on tap with Mark. We're one of these live.
Right.
A few drinks. Some of them you're like, yeah, you have to slow down. Okay, no, really slow down, because I cannot hear what you're saying. I'm just hearing sounds.
Slow down and pronounce.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I need to learn how to hear Irish. Anyway, it's been a blast, my friend. I shall catch you soon. I'm gonna rate.